Are you ready to perform at your highest potential? Welcome to the Performance Matters podcast from GP Strategies, your talent transformation partner. In each episode, we'll interview industry experts and explore best practices and innovative insights to help your organization improve performance. What's number 4?
Yeah. So paradox number 4, I feel like it's probably one that I don't care like in what industry you work and where you are. It's probably the most relatable of all the paradoxes. And it's the fact that my current priorities prevent me from prioritizing my development. So what I would say if I were in a classroom is raise your hand if this applies to you. So if you're driving your car or whatever, raise your hand. And I know that probably most people that are listening have had an experience where maybe there's something they wanted to do to develop themselves, a session they wanted to go to, a podcast they wanted to listen to, whatever, but something else got in the way. And so, we heard all along through all of the different data points that we've discussed that development is actually really important to people. And also at the same time, it's very, very challenging for those moments to happen because of what's on their plate. So, what's on fire that day, what is rising to the top in terms of urgency and priority. So one of the things that I think is interesting here is, we ask people, and to me, I was thinking like, for all the clients that we work with that, are running talent development functions or leadership development functions, this was like our gift to you is like, hey, here's something you can use to like give to your leadership of like, if you offered professional development opportunities, how likely would you be to take advantage of them? And like some of the other data points, we had nearly 3/4 of people say that they were either likely or very likely. 74% of people said, I would be likely or very likely to take advantage of development. So what that tells me is that people are hungry to grow. Again, very similar to what we talked about with skills and values and learning new skills and staying in the same job. But what we did with this question was we actually took a look not at the 74% of people who said they were likely, but we looked at the 26% of people who said they were not likely, like, not at all, or maybe just somewhat. And we asked them a follow-up question, essentially, why, right? If so you are not interested in development, and I would love to know why. So we gave people a pick list. It's kind of fun, right? Because sometimes the data will show you something like on the surface, but then sometimes it's like the inverse of that. It's like, okay, well, if not, then why not? And so we provided this pick list of things, and I could totally tease you and be like, you know what? Okay, I'll just tell you. No time.
I want to know.
Yeah. No, you probably could guess though. Lack of time and competing priorities. So essentially what gets in the way of being able to pursue development opportunities. And so this is probably, again, not super surprising. People are saying they want to develop, but we also have a subset of people that are saying like, I can't, and here's why. We also have fewer than half of employees saying that they're spending the right amount of time on their development. So we know there's a gap between what people want and what they're currently able to get. And I think there's big implications there for talent development professionals about understanding those barriers to developing people, and then helping maybe make things a little bit more part of the expected either culture or practice of the organization. So this training is not necessarily it's not a nice thing to have. It's actually necessary to function in my role. And everybody understands the investment of time that I put in is valid. It's to be expected. There's contingency plans. Everybody knows that X, Y, and Z training opportunity might be happening. So really folks that are able to operationalize and which sounds like such a harsh word, but being able to really weave that into the fabric of the organization. Right. Development is normalized. Make it happen, right? It's celebrated. It's not just tolerated, right? It's really something that you're able to bring to the forefront of what it takes to be a great leader, a great individual contributor at any organization. So, for me, I kind of folded in the paradox as well as the implication, but the headline is there's a gap between the development people want to get and their ability to actually pursue it. And I do think for a lot of it, the answer lies at the organizational level, as I mentioned, and then at the leader level, understanding what are those barriers are and working like mad to try to clear them so people can develop and grow. They can feel that value. They can feel their skills increase, and they can ultimately be hopefully much more valuable to you in the organization for a much longer period of time and be happier while they're doing it. So everybody wins.
Damn it.
I love when
I can see there's fertile ground on the leadership practice, both for GP and Leah on this one, because as you said, the word operationalize, that's always the trick there. It's like, it makes sense. Go back to Stephen Covey's quadrants, right? Quadrant one's urgent and important. And everyone spends all their time there if they're not looking at TikTok or something. And then quadrant 2 is that one that it's the urgent and not important. That's what you're talking about. That's where you're growing and developing and getting that satisfaction. And just how do you make that happen? And I'm sure that's a big part of your leadership practices, if I'm not correct, is just helping people sit down and go, how do you actually do this on a day-to-day basis? Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's how you help individuals, leaders, right, and organizations. Because I think one of the things we've talked around it a little bit in this session, but I think it's worth highlighting is it really is this partnership, right, between individuals, people, leaders, and organizations. So yes, it is about the individual sitting down and getting really clear on, well, what are my values? What's important to me? What are the job conditions under which I do my best work? How can I think about growing and learning from even failures or setbacks? So that growth mindset and speaking up, right? The onus is on the individual to speak up about what it is that they need. And then also people, leaders, and organizations, have a part in that engagement with the individual as well. And Katy, I don't know, I know you sometimes highlight what the people leaders need to do as well. I don't know if you want to chime in on I covered individual, you might want to chime in on people, leaders, and organizations, but the implication is that all three really do play a role.
Which again, I totally can do that. I know I will say two things. One is this is the point of view that we've had all along, right? Just like engagement, career development is everyone's responsibility and opportunity, right? So again, going back to what I mentioned before about those career conversations, like people leaders have it indicative upon them to understand who their people are, to really also understand at the same time, not just the individual, the organization, the strategy, the needs, what is happening. And then organizations, as I just mentioned previously, like the ability to really make this development and career development part of the fabric of the organization. It's normalized, it's celebrated. There's equity in terms of who has access to opportunities. I think that's a big thing for organizations. Maybe there's just pods of people now that have access to things like coaching and leadership development, and that really shouldn't be the case. I know it's easier said than done, but I will say though, because I know we probably got to wrap up, but in the research report, there is a table that breaks this down in a lot more granular detail. So you'll see bulleted implications and action items for individuals, for people, leaders, and for organizations. So no matter what lens you're absorbing the information through, there should be some applicable info for you to take it and really make some progress.
The Performance Matters podcast is brought to you by GP Strategies. Together, we can create a world where business excellence makes possibilities achievable. You can subscribe to the show anywhere you get podcasts or listen on our website at gpstrategies.com.